Hey everyone, Robin here, and I call myself the Tenderfoot Artist because I am still learning. Today we're going to paint some hibiscus flowers, a trio of them. I'm starting off with my drawing, which I did on a regular piece of computer paper, in pencil. Then I went over my lines with black magic marker or a Sharpie and erased my pencil lines, scanned it into my computer and enlarged it to fit my 12 by 12 canvas. Now here I'm painting on the first flower. I'm using my Cad medium red. In the very center of the flower I put a teeny tiny, the smallest amount you could possibly get of black on the corner of my brush to make the center. I'm going to paint the entire flower, all three of them, in the Cad Red medium. Trying to mind the direction of my brush stroke to follow the shape of the flower petal. Starting on that second flower, again with just the tiniest little bit of black on the corner of my brush with the Cad Red medium, and painting all the petals towards the center of the flower so that the brush strokes go in the direction that the petal is. Now the white lines, or the little bits of white that you see in the flower, that's where the, I believe it's called the stamen, is going to come out of the center of the flower. I tried to leave it white so it would be easier because that's going to be kind of a yellowish color. And now I'm taking my Cad Red Light and just going around the outer parts of the petals, pulling it towards the center of the flower, kind of just flicking my brush in so that it blends a little better. And I'm going to go around all the edges of all three flowers with this. Now before I hit the other two flowers, I decided I was going to go back into my Cad Red medium, and from the center of the flower outwards, using the chisel edge of my brush, drawing it like a line instead of flat, I'm pulling like veins out from the center towards the edge of the flower so that it kind of meets where the Cad Red Light was at. It's hard to see in the video, but the veins are there. Each layer, it builds that color a little bit darker or lighter depending on what shade you're using. Now we're on to that second flower, going around the edges with the Cad Red Light, flicking it in towards the center of the flower, trying to make sure we're paying attention of our brush stroke, the direction. Third flower, same thing, around the edges. We're building our highlights now. back to the Cad Red medium, pulling from the center to the outward portion of the petal, making those vein lines with the chisel end of the brush, like drawing a line. And in case I forgot to mention it, which I'm sure I did, I am using a flat about a 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch. Now I'm going back around the edges again, but this time with the Cad Yellow and doing that same flicking towards the center. And like I said, each layer we are adding to the highlights of the flower. All 3 flowers, Cad Yellow around the edges of the petals. So now I decided I need to put some green into the painting so that I can see if I'm building the dimension that I want on the flowers. So I'm using my Sap Green and mixing it with Cad Yellow as I go. I'm not too particular that each leaf is the same color because it's not. As the light hits it, they all look a little bit different. So I'm just like dab into green, dab into yellow, let it blend on the canvas, and I'm fine with that. So we're going to paint in all the leaves now. Now if you have overlapping leaves, of course the one on top will be just a tad bit lighter, or a lot lighter, however you want to make it, than the one that's underneath. So you do have to be mindful of that. You know, when I said I wasn't being too particular about the color of my leaves, I am paying attention to that. So if it is a leaf that goes underneath, it is darker. If it is a leaf that goes over top of another leaf, it is a little bit lighter. Now I am trying to not paint over top of the red of my flowers, but if it happens, it's okay, because we still have more color to add to those flowers, so we can fix any little mishaps that we might have. And we're almost done with these leaves now. Just a few more to go. Then we're going to paint in the background. And I don't know how many times I've said this. I really prefer my background color in first, but the color that I'm using for my background just wouldn't allow for the buildup of the red and these greens on top of it. They wouldn't show. So I had to do these first and then paint around them. It is so much easier not to have white spots showing if you can do your background first, but this is definitely a case that that's not going to happen. Okay, so now we are ready for that background, and I'm mixing some Mars Black in with my Sap Green to give me a blackish green color. And as I'm painting it in, it's kind of choppy. I'm not caring, which way my brush strokes go, but I am caring if I'm painting over top of the edges, so I'm trying to be very careful as I'm close to the flowers and the leaves. And it doesn't take a whole lot of black. You're just making this a dark green. And I'll dip in and add more green, or I'll dip in and add a little more black to it. It just depends, but that isn't going to matter which direction your brush stroke goes. Choppy is good because it's supposed to look like out of focus leaves, so it's darkness because it's in the background. Now I have to say that the hibiscus is one of the easiest flowers that I've ever tried to draw. I looked online for instructions on how to draw one and found one that showed you pictures step by step. Basically, you start out with a circle and you're going to make your wavy petals, large petals, go around it and connect and overlap. It's pretty simple. Or I can put a traceable if you like my design. I'll put a traceable on my Facebook group page that would be in the file section. And you can just enlarge it with your picture program to whatever size canvas you want to use. Mine is a 12 by 12. just hitting some spots that I might see some white poking through. Now we're back to the flowers again, and I've got a small detail brush. I've taken some of my green and mixed it in with a little bit of my Cad Red medium, and I'm trying to make the shadows of where the petals overlap, also brushing in some more veins of the flower petals, just lightly. I mean, you're just like kissing the canvas, butterfly kisses on the canvas, so that it's very faint lines. And the shadow goes to the side that is the underneath petal. This is also where you have an opportunity, if you feel that the centers of your flowers need a little more darkness, but not so dark as with the black one in the beginning. This is where you can add that in and really accent that, the hole in the center. There goes one of our many daily trains. I'm sure you can hear that. Don't be afraid to flip your canvas around to make it easier to reach things either. See here, I'm working on the center of that one. I felt like it needed to be more pronounced. Okay, so now I have added a little bit of white to my Cad Red Light. Not so much that it makes it a pink, but where it lightens it up. And I'm going along the edges, and I put in a little bit, and then I blend it towards the center with my finger. That way I don't have harsh lines along the edge. I don't want harsh lines. I want it to blend in. I'm also adding the highlight on the opposite side of the shadow where the petals overlap. I'm accenting some of the veins. And yes, I had very, very messy fingers by the end of this. I go around, I do this on all 3 flowers. Wherever you think it needs it to help it pop out, just keep going around. You can add more, you can put less. You're painting, you flash it up the way you want to flash it up. But when you're rubbing it in with your finger, mind the direction of the petal, which way the petal's growing, because you want that to follow down towards the center or up towards the center. You don't want it to be going horizontal if it should be going vertical or diagonal. Okay, still using that detail brush, I'm doing the stamen part of the flower. The first layer is your yellow mixed with some titanium white. The white is going to help it take your color. And I'm just tapping with little dots the pollen part of the flower, and all three, just kind of a cylinder shape. And now I am going back over top with my Cad Yellow and a little tiny bit of the Cad Red Light to make it an orangey color, painting over the top of that, and then using just yellow over the dots for the pollen. And where it was the white yellow was underneath it, it's going to make it stand out. Now I'm going back into my red green mixture that we made for the shadows, and at the top of each one of those stamen there's like 5, and it's 5. I looked at photos and counted, it's 5 little dots, larger than the others, that just kind of float around the top. Now I'm coming back in with straight titanium white to accent the highlights, and again using that detail brush, I'm painting it on and then blending it with my finger so that I don't have really harsh lines. And I'm not necessarily going around every single edge. I'm just like, okay, which way is my sunlight coming from? And those are the petals that are getting it. And then the opposite side of the flower, it's not on the edge of the petal, it's like getting closer to the center that you're going to have some really shiny spots. Believe it or not, we're getting close to being done on that third flower. Put a little on, smear it in with your finger in the direction of the petal. Some places I didn't think was bright enough, so I went back and added a little more. If you think you got too carried away, you can always go back later after it dries and cover it up with your other color. Now that was straight yellow over top of that stamen. I want it to stand out, I want it to show up. So now back to the leaves. I'm taking my yellow-white mix and I am dry brushing, this time with an angle brush, in the direction that I think that the veins of the leaves would go. You know, to the right go in one direction, to the left going the other way. That way I don't have to go back in and paint each individual center of the leaf. And I'm hitting every single leaf. A little bit here, a little bit there, some a little more, some a little less. Just dry brushing it on. I'm not rubbing it in with my finger. I want it to show. Okay, now I'm going into Cad Yellow with the little green mixed into it. And I'm painting over the whole leaf, the entire leaf. And where that white-yellow mix was, it is going to just really pop out. Every leaf you're going to do this to. Then you'll have to go back afterwards and add shadow underneath the flower opposite of your light source, so that it casts a shadow onto the leaves. And you can do that just with your green without the yellow, and just a little bit, go to the edge of the flower and pull away from it. Once we've painted all of the leaves again with the yellow green, you're going to take just straight Cad Yellow and go over top of the background. And where there was more green than black, it's going to help add a lot more texture to this.